How does someone become an entrepreneur? And why? How can we help more women become entrepreneurs? These are the things I think about a lot as a female entrepreneur myself. And I'm definitely aware of the things that challenge women from entering entrepreneurship. And I'm acutely aware of what becomes challenging when women are able to become entrepreneurs. If we're thinking about how to empower women to lead confident, driven, and forward-looking personal and professional lives, I think we need to first look back in time to understand how to actively engage the potential of girls. If we want a future full of female entrepreneurs, we need to build a pipeline from girlhood. I started my first company when I was 25. Actually, that's not true. I started my first company when I was 8, selling $2 manicures during recess. And I had a very active brokerage trading jelly pens and Beanie Babies in the mid-90s. Today, I'm standing in front of you as a female entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur in an industry that I love. I have a master's in fashion studies from Parsons, and I'm very proud to say I'm about to finish an MBA from Columbia Business School. I turned 30 last month. What's most incredible about all of this to me is that if you had shown me a crystal ball when I was 15 years old and said, this is what your life is going to look like, I would have thought it was impossible. Not because I didn't believe in myself, but because the pathway to those opportunities had not yet been shown to me. I had the entrepreneurial instinct, but I didn't know what to do with it. I recently went to India for the first time. Have you ever been to India? If you've been, you'll know that the volume is turned up on absolutely everything about the experience. So I was going through my photos at the end of the trip, and I came across a picture that I took on the side of a really busy road in Mumbai. My group and I, we were just a few of us, and we had just met a group of young schoolgirls. And there was this one, she was about 6. She's on the left-hand side of the picture. I'll never forget her smile. She had this positive, powerful, infectious energy that I swear you could feel from miles away. And there she was in the photo, her hand blurred where she's waving at me, her backpack as big as she was. But what stopped me about the picture was not her necessarily. It was actually the contrasting facial expressions on the older girls on the other side of the picture. They just looked scared. And the photo got me thinking, what happens in between the joyful optimism of a little girl who believes that the world is limitless and the caution that I saw in the faces of these adolescent girls? What happens in there, I think that might be universal. And so it got me thinking, what is potential? What does potential mean to you? And critically, it got me thinking, what challenges the potential of girls? Do you remember thinking about what you were going to do when you grew up? Maybe you're thinking about it now. Maybe you recently had a career change. Maybe you have no idea. Maybe you're watching this and you're 15 and you're not really sure what you're supposed to do. Do you remember deciding where to go to college? Maybe you're in high school and you're thinking about it now. I remember that time in my life. It wasn't pretty. I was in high school and dealing with depression and anxiety, trying to be a great big sister and a supportive daughter while my parents went through a divorce. And critically, I was a young girl watching my mom, Anne, who's here with me today, figure out who she was in this new identity as a single mother. I also watched her try to figure out what her professional identity was going to look like. And the biggest challenge there for her was that her resume had a 13-year-long gap, which is exactly how old I was. I was 13. My lesson then as a girl was that I never wanted to be out of control of my fate, and I didn't want a man to control my future. So I got up every day and I went to high school, where I loved my English classes and I loved my art classes, and I did okay on the SAT, but my grades really just weren't great. But I had goals, and I had a list of goal colleges, and I took that list to my guidance counselor, and he looked at the list, and he looked at me, and he looked at my transcript, and he looked back at me, and he said something that I will never forget. He said, "Yeah, you're gonna need to aim lower." So, tip, never tell a teenage girl to aim lower. She might just listen to you and do it. Definitely don't tell a teenage girl to aim lower if you're a guidance counselor. So the first thing I did was get a new guidance counselor, and the second thing I did was promise myself that I was only going to aim higher. I also aimed about 60 miles northeast to New York City. I knew if I wanted to have an independent life, I was going to need to do something exceptional. And I thought, I need to go to New York City because that's where exceptional things happen. And I was really lucky. I was able to come here. From the time I was 17 years old, it was like there was a gravitational pull bringing me to New York City. And luckily enough, the fashion industry welcomed me in at an early age, and I was able to get some modeling jobs. And I quickly met people who showed me that I had options. Someone suggested to me, go out and find people that you admire and ask them for 15 minutes to ask them about their career over coffee. So I did. I started my series of 15-minute coffee chat requests. One of the women who first said yes to those requests was a retail executive who said to me, you need to get an education in the history of fashion. I had no idea what to do with that advice at the time because I had just finished undergrad, but what I realized was that she meant I needed to continue to learn. In that moment, she made a suggestion that I had never pondered. I had never thought about graduate school. In fact, I was told that it wasn't an option. But when she made this suggestion, it allowed me to envision myself there for the very first time. It made me think, well, she thinks I'm capable of this. I could probably do it. And so I did it. I applied and I got in, and in the first 60 days of that program, I launched my first company, my first real company. And that's my first tip for women who want to get into entrepreneurship. Begin your entrepreneurial journey when you have the structural backing of another goal in place. Are you working on something at your office that you're really interested in? See what you can do to develop that on the weekends. Are you thinking about graduate school? Consider using graduate school or education in general as the background for your entrepreneurial journey. If you start a program and you have a business idea, if your business idea doesn't work out, you'll still have completed that education in the same amount of time, and then you can try another idea. I think of this as a portfolio approach to my career, balanced and diversified. I want to go back to India for a bit. When I was there, my group and I met an organization called Educate Girls. I loved that name, Educate Girls. It's so beautifully simple and straightforward. And it's exactly what they do, and they do it in rural India where, for a variety of reasons, girls are not always encouraged to go to school. And what I learned from them was that they think what you have to do is educate one girl, because then one day, when she has children, they'll educate their children, and their children will educate theirs. It takes the potential of a girl and turns it into the future power of a woman. So how can we build this pipeline? Encourage one woman in your world to aim higher. Tell one woman what you think she would be incredible at. Your suggestions have the ability to allow her to envision herself doing something new and different that she had never considered. My mentors are the people who helped me adopt an entrepreneurial mindset. And that entrepreneurial mindset has been key to unlocking a sense of control and purpose over my entire life. What does potential mean to you? For me, I think it's linked to education. Education was my gateway into entrepreneurship, and more importantly, it was the gateway to understanding and believing in my own inherent value. Education and learning was also my mother's gateway to unlocking her full potential. Today, she's an educator at a charter school, and she builds the pipeline for the girls she teaches every day. She always has 15 minutes for them, and she always has 15 minutes for me. As women, we create our own value, and we need to create value that no one can take from us. That is where you find your power. Your suggestions have the potential to help women unlock their entire future. We're standing in a new world for women and girls. For the first time, the rules that have governed the limits of female potential are being rewritten. And they're being rewritten every day by you and by me. I believe to create a future full of female entrepreneurs, we need to build a pipeline from the potential of girlhood to the activation of strong, empowered, supported women. Thank you.